Wherever you are in the world, welcome to another edition of Jerry's Take on China. And again, I'm answering what I think is a very good question from a subscriber, Vanessa Jacks, or Jakes. Any relation to Martin Jacks, I wonder, who is a real expert on China. Asked me, can I explain what changes the reunification will have on Taiwan? The question seems to imply that a reunification is inevitable, and in the minds of most Chinese people, that is true. However, to be honest, in my view, reunification is highly unlikely to happen in my lifetime. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. The problems in the Hong Kong 2019 riots were very much US funded and encouraged with a view to setting back the Taiwan reunification process. And in that respect, it probably worked. No one in China, Hong Kong, or anywhere else in the world expected the Hong Kong protesters to get any independence of any sort. What they did get was a very measured response, a disciplined and rational method of dealing with a problem that was caused by outside interference. Hong Kong is now safer, more stable, and fully recovered, with most of the criminals in prison or in exile, and I don't use the word criminals lightly. These people were criminals, but they were encouraged to be so by a government, probably two, because the British are not innocent here either, which encouraged, trained, funded, and then abandoned them. I have a theory here. Remember, after these riots, not protests, many people applied to leave Hong Kong and head to Taiwan, but Taiwan rejected them all. That was a surprise, wasn't it? My theory is that the USA made that decision and encouraged Taiwan authorities to reject them all, because they probably said, we've abandoned them, they will be disillusioned. So they were stuck in Hong Kong, many of them getting arrested and imprisoned for their part in the riots. Had they escaped to Taiwan, they would have reformed. They would almost certainly not have changed their view on Hong Kong independence, but they would be equally as anti-US or UK as they are anti-mainland China. The US let them down very badly. And this information would be learnt by the Taiwan anti-mainland factions, who would also learn how untrustworthy their handlers and potentially change their allegiances. The USA does not want hundreds of Hong Kongers disgruntled with their treatment by the US, giving the Taiwan teams the truth about the US and what they will do after they have achieved their goals. Hong Kong protests started with genuine dissatisfaction in society, but was never about independence. It was never about democracy. The USA capitalized on the dissatisfaction and set about to show Taiwan residents how brutal the mainland police and military can be. In this respect, the mainland let them down badly and showed how fair and responsible they actually are. So getting back to the question, I think Taiwan can ask China for anything. This is my opinion. Taiwan can keep its form of democracy. It can keep its elections. It can literally do whatever it wants to do, except secede from China. And then a reunification can occur. However, there will be one caveat, and that is that a national security law which prevents outside interference would be imposed. And this is what the USA will be most concerned about. It's only the USA preventing reunification. Now that Hong Kong has settled down, and despite Western media headlines which still decry some imaginary loss of freedoms, it's a perfect model for what Taiwan can be like. Also note that Macau has experienced nothing but benefit from reunification, and is now integrating very well with the mainland through a part of the neighboring city, Hengqin in Zhuhai, being classified as a deep cooperation zone. It has increased Macau's land space by many times. It's created diversification from the only real industry Macau had, gambling and associated tourism, and is creating opportunities for hundreds of Macau youths to live, work, and play on the mainland. Hong Kong also has such a zone in a place called Qianhai in Shenzhen. You can look these up. They're very good models of how things can work when two different systems exist together. There is a third deep cooperation zone in Nansha, and this is a part of Guangzhou, which is a new port that's opened there. Much of Hong Kong's shipping can now leave China without the additional checks in Hong Kong. So again, if you see reports that Hong Kong shipping exports are down, please note that Hong Kong's exports are up. It's a misinformation tactic used by Western media to show Hong Kong is not doing so well. The reality is that Hong Kong is doing very well, but has less shipping leaving the ports because much of it now goes through the deep cooperation zone of Nansha. I've been to the port there. It's absolutely staggering how large and efficient it is. There's really only a handful of staff, and they handle millions of containers a year. In the event of reunification, Taiwan would get such a zone, probably in Fujian province and possibly part of Xiamen, maybe elsewhere too. Already, hundreds, probably thousands, I haven't researched this, of companies from Taiwan do business on the mainland. As a teacher, I've personally taught hundreds of Taiwan students within society here. I know many Taiwan business people, and they're all happy with the status quo. I've never once met a single Taiwanese resident who expressed to me that they wanted independence. I'm sure they do exist. I just don't know of any. Overall, reunification would create a country of three systems. Taiwan would definitely benefit, and they'd have no need to buy old, obsolete, and expensive US military supplies. They'd have no need for every 18-year-old to serve in the military. And there'd be no need to fear any sort of invasion or attack, because China will, as it continues to say it will, always protect Taiwan. It is, after all, a Chinese island. So that's my take on that. I think reunification will be beneficial, but I can't see it happening in the very near future. Let's hope I'm wrong. Thanks once again for watching Jerry's Take on China.